What's going on, everybody? This is the NBA Guru Show, and we're excited to have our first guest, ABC Sports anchor, reporter, host of the Locked On Kings podcast, Matt George. Appreciate you coming on tonight.
Hey, it's a pleasure. Thanks for having me on. I'm honored to be number one, the first guest. So hopefully I don't screw it up for you guys.
No, you're good. We got Naf here as usual. How you doing, Naf?
I'm good. I'm good. Excited to have Matt on, and hopefully we're the ones that don't screw it up since this is our first time. But yeah, let's just get right into the Kings talk.
We're recording right after the March 29th Orlando game. Kings lost by like 30 points. There's been a lot of negativity going around last few weeks ever since the Fox trade. Vibes have been kind of, on the low. Do you have any positivity just to start us out here before we get into the negativity part? Any positivity just about the future of the team, the next couple weeks, playing stuff like that?
Yeah, unfortunately, while I haven't necessarily started the negativity, I've certainly been one to continue it and carry it out. Yes, there are some positives for sure with what the Sacramento Kings are doing. I think the addition of Jake Laravia has been fantastic. I think the young guys, when they've gotten their opportunities, have shown, especially the young defenders from Devin Carter kind of emerging a little bit to the greatness that is Keon Ellis, Keegan Murray, figuring out his offense in addition to the defense that's been so good over the entire season. So there are small positives and things to look at that the Sacramento Kings need to pay attention to in order to kind of determine which guys they want to move forward with and which guys they need to consider moving on from this summer. But there's a lot of negativity, and we could dive into the specifics of it. I'm sure we will. I'll wait for specifically what you guys want to know about. But the overarching theme is that this organization lost their direction. They don't have a direction. Nobody knows where they're going. We know where they want to go, but there's no clear path on how to get there. So I think we're in for a pretty explosive summer for the Sacramento Kings. I'll just say that.
No, for sure. But yeah, okay, that's good to start off with the positivity. Let's get into some of the negatives. Are we ever going to be good at defending the three? I'm going to throw out some numbers, okay? 30th this year, 29th the year before, 24 before that, 29th and 27 for our last 5 years. We played today the worst three-point shooting team. They shot like above 40%. In the last 10 games, I think the Kings' opponent three-point percentage has been 45%. What can we do? Like, why are we so bad, and is it ever going to get better?
Well, the main thing, we could talk specifically about the Kings having roster with more length and athleticism and better defenders to help on closeouts. The reality is it's a lot harder to shoot over a 6'8", 6'9" guy with a 7+ foot wingspan than it is over a 6'3" guy with a 6'9" or 6'10" wingspan, right? Those little things make a difference. But shooting is confidence, and the Sacramento Kings have a reputation of being a team where you can come in against them and you can shoot the basketball well. Like, confidence is everything in shooting, and that's why we see basically every team come through the Golden One Center and shoot really well in this building, right? The Orlando Magic, for example, they shoot well against the Sacramento Kings every single time they play them. Why is that concerning? Because the Orlando Magic are dead last in the league in three-pointers made in three-point percentage. But they play the Kings and they look like they're the number one team in the league in that area. It's all confidence-based. Teams come into games and have for the last 5 years against the Sacramento Kings and know, I'm going to get good looks from three. And that gives them the confidence to warm-ups. They see the first couple go in the first quarter. And at that point, the floodgates are open and teams just really exploit that and take advantage of that. So you'd like to believe the Kings will find a way to fix it, but beyond personnel, it has to start with the Kings changing their reputation as being a team that you're going to have an open season from three-point range against.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I think we said a couple shows ago, they're like Kings have been sort of like a get right for a lot of teams to get their shooting back on track. I think with the Bulls too, that sort of carried on to the Lakers game and stuff. But yeah, no, that's a good point. But yeah, I guess just sort of to go into the negativity, given that sort of Fox asked out in the past 6 months, and now there's more reports coming out about Sabonis maybe asking out this summer. Do you think that sort of has a negative impact on the Kings overall as an organization reputation in terms of bringing players in as, maybe free agency and whatnot?
Well, players, I mean, of course, money, the amount of money the Kings will offer a player and stuff, the money talks more than anything else. But players want to know what they're getting into, right? And Domantas Sabonis is now going to start asking the same questions that De'Aaron Fox was asking before everything kind of blew up and became what it was. And whether you're on Team Fox or not on Team Fox, he was asking questions of the organization that they didn't have good answers for. And in fact, they didn't have to give him any verbal answers. Their actions said enough for him as to where he was ready to move on and not spend more time in Sacramento. Now Domantas Sabonis is going into an offseason where he's asking for a clear direction. Yeah, get in line, Domas. So are all of us, the entire fan base, the entire organization is wondering where the heck we're going, right? So yes, it absolutely has an impact. Do I think the situation is as drastic for Domas as it was for De'Aaron? No, because Domas is already under contract. Fox was talking about a contract extension. Now the Kings, some would argue they had to make a move when they did. You didn't. I mean, you had Fox under contract for another year, so you didn't have to hit the acceleration button nearly as fast as you did. I understand why they did it. It's in the past. Domantas Sabonis is being paid a lot of money. He's under contract for the next 3 years. So Kings are just getting started when it comes to Domas. So it's not as volatile a situation, but yeah, if Domas starts asking out because he doesn't know where the heck this organization is going or doesn't like the direction in which they're going, other teams and other players certainly are going to be paying attention to that.
No, for sure. And all right, since we're getting into that a little bit, at this current moment in time, if you could tell this team to tank to keep the pick, would you do it? And if they had to go that direction, the next year they probably have to do the same because the pick will be like top 10 protected. Because if you're going to do that, you want to tank for the next 2 years. How would you go around that?
See, I don't think it's in any interest of the organization to do that. I know it's not in the interest of Doug Christie. I used to work with Doug Christie in radio when he worked for Sacktown Sports 1140 Radio here, and he hates tanking. Like he has the players' mindset of tanking is like, why the hell would I tank? Players don't care about future draft picks. Players are not interested in helping the team get a better draft pick to go out and select their player's replacement. Like they don't have any interest in that. That being said, I don't always know how much interest the Kings players do have in winning right now, or they just look like they're collecting a paycheck sometimes and ready to get to this offseason. And I can relate to that. I think a lot of us are just ready for this season to be over with how crazy and chaotic it's been. I don't think tanking is reasonable. If it were me, the draft pick to me is part of a larger issue. And to me, the large issue, the change that needs to happen starts with the front office. I think like Monte McNair has done a lot of great things here in Sacramento for sure. Deserves a lot of credit for helping this organization get back to relevancy. But over the last 2 years, he's completely fumbled everything that he built for himself and mishandled a lot of these situations. So I'm of the belief that he has not done an adequate job, and it's in the best interest of the Sacramento Kings. You already got rid of your star. You got rid of your head coach. Like, start fresh with a new front office too. So if that's the case, I think it's in the best interest of the organization to have a draft pick this summer. And also, depending upon what needs to happen, I don't know if the Kings need to worry about tanking for next season because they might be one of the 10 worst teams in the NBA next season anyway. Where they're at is the worst position to be in. In the middle is the worst. You have to either be really good or good enough to compete or really bad to get a draft pick. For the vast majority of the time that the Sacramento Kings were in that 16-year playoff drought, they were right where they're at right now, right in the middle. Maybe not as good, not as many wins, but just barely on the outside looking in, right? That's not where you want to be. So the Kings need to pick a direction, right? Are they going to rebuild? I don't think they're ever going to fully blow it up rebuild because of ticket sales and business and Vivek and all that, those extra elements. But they can't keep throwing money at the wall, trying to maybe catch lightning in a bottle or scratch and claw their way into the playoffs when we all know as soon as they faced a real team like the Oklahoma City Thunder, they'd get rinsed. So it's just the Kings need to pick a direction, and whatever direction they choose, the draft pick will play into that.
If you're the GM and let's say Sabonis wants out, and you're trying to get value for him, I feel like if Kings don't make playoffs or if it's like a play-in type situation, we lose out. I think DeMar would be wanting to kind of not be here as well. I feel like. Do you think we can get some decent value for these guys? Because I know like Sabonis is a niche player. And it's kind of tough. He's $45 million, around that. So you're going to get some contracts back. But I know the Kings don't want to go in that direction, but they might not have a choice if Sabonis wanted out, right? And DeMar wanted out. So it's just a possibility here. We're just trying to see what kind of value. Do you think like Sabonis could get us a first or two and, maybe a young piece with some contracts to match? Was DeMar worth like a few seconds, 2 to 3 second round picks? And I feel like Levine's not worth much. Like it's going to be tough to trade him. So I'm not even going to bring him up, but would those two players be the first to kind of try to get some value for? And what kind of value can we get for them?
Well, DeMar's number one. I mean, I just think DeMar's gone this summer. I think it's going to be a mutual agreement to part ways and to move on. DeMar chose Sacramento because he thought he could win here. It's not. It's been a disaster. And he's not interested in being part of any kind of rebuild. So I think it's in the best interest of the Kings, best interest for DeMar to just part ways. And whatever value you can get for him, you take. Get the money off the books, send him to a place that he hopefully wants to go. Maybe get something halfway decent back, or nothing. Who knows? Just move on. Domantas Sabonis. One of the things you said there is the Kings might not have a choice. No, they do. They gave Sabonis the money that he wanted. They have the length of contract. They can take their time. They can do whatever they want. And if Domas doesn't want to deal with, here's what I'll say. I don't know Domantas Sabonis personally, but I've covered Sabonis closely over the last couple of years. Sabonis is a competitor. He works hard. He fights hard. He battles through injuries. Sabonis, while he might not be happy with the direction of the Kings, I don't look at Sabonis as someone who's going to pout and sit out and go, I'm not doing this, F this, which is maybe a difference between him and De'Aaron specifically, right? So I don't think getting value for Sabonis is tough because he has value around the league. There are teams that know how good Domantas Sabonis is, but he has that money that's attached to him. And if you're going to move a contract like that, typically to find a team to take a contract like that, even if he's a good player that teams would be interested in, you're not getting equal value back. I have a hard time imagining you're getting much draft compensation. Look what terrible draft picks the Kings got. Well, one of them we don't know. But the draft compensation that the Kings got back from San Antonio in the Fox trade, Fox was the best player in the deal. The Spurs didn't have to give up any player of substance in that deal, and they didn't have to give up any of their best picks to get Fox. Why the heck would anybody give up great picks to get Domantas Sabonis? And I love Domas. It's just unrealistic to expect that. So this is part of the mess the Kings put themselves in. And then Zach LaVine, no team in the NBA wanted that contract except for the Kings, I guess. No team wants that. And I would like to see what Zach LaVine looks like with the Sacramento Kings, maybe post DeMar DeRozan, what it looks like next season, depending upon the direction that the Kings take. Because I don't think Zach LaVine's a bad basketball player. He's a hell of a scorer, and he's having an incredibly efficient year. But Zach LaVine's going to be paid $48 million next year, and the last year of his contract is basically $50 million. You're not getting anybody to take that. So unless you're attaching multiple first-round picks to it, why would the Kings do that in any kind of rebuild scenario? So that's the problem. The Kings are stuck. They've made a mess of themselves. They have two massive contracts for players that might not want to be here or they might not want to build around, and that's the position they willingly put themselves in. And either a new front office is going to have to come in and try and clean that up, or Monty's going to have to deal with the bed that he made for himself.
Right. And then I was going to ask about that particular situation. You did mention, Vivek Ranadive, he probably wouldn't want to tank because of ticket sales and whatnot. How much do you think he was? Because if you look at, Monte McNair sort of past transactions, he doesn't really have that history of taking on a bad contract like of Levine's. Do you think Vivek had any say in that? I think the Kings were the ones that originally offered him the sheet, I think back in 2019. But do you think Vivek essentially had that say? And how much of it do you think it was him versus Monte McNair?
I'll say this. Vivek Ranadive has been infatuated with players in the past. And very often those players end up Sacramento Kings. Vivek Ranadive loved Nick Stauskas. He was drafted by the Kings. Vivek Ranadive loved Buddy Hield. The Kings got him in the DeMarcus Cousins trade. Vivek Ranadive has liked Zach LaVine for a long time. Now they just got him as the piece back in the De'Aaron Fox trade, contract and all. You can connect the dots kind of for yourself there. And we know while Vivek has done a significantly better job today than he was when he first started at meddling and being involved, when you talk to people in and around the organization, or specifically people outside of the organization that have left and moved on, a very consistent theme that you hear about Vivek Ranadive is he gets involved, and there are too many voices and too many cooks in the kitchen, too many people weighing in. And look, it's common in sports for the ownership to have a say, the owner to have the final say. He's the boss. But you got to empower your basketball decision makers to make basketball decisions. And it's easy to speculate that Vivek was very involved in a lot of the decisions that started this downward spiral, from the firing of Mike Brown, as much as Monty wants to claim that was his decision, to where we're at with Zach LaVine, to DeMar DeRozan, right? Vivek is 100% involved. And unfortunately, that's just the reality of the situation. That's ownership in sports. And unlike your front office, unlike players, unlike coaches, that's not really something you can change or get rid of unless they willingly choose to do so. So it's worth talking about, but it's also worth talking about with the understanding that it is what it is. This is ownership. And if you're concerned that the Kings can't have success unless ownership is changed, well, I don't think ownership's changing anytime soon.
No, for sure. And I wanted to ask about Keegan Murray in general here. He's been playing a little bit better, I think, under Doug Christie since the Mike Brown firing. And his 3-pointers are getting better. His defense still solid and one of the best on the team. Do you think, like, because we're all assuming that DeMar DeRozan is probably going to leave, and I think actually DeMar has been playing the best on the team the last 6 weeks, since post All-Star game. I think he's been playing maybe the best on the team. He's been consistent and shooting well, and his 3-point shooting has been pretty good the last 6 weeks. But if he leaves, is Keegan Murray, can he take some of that role from DeMar and score a little bit more? Can he become that 20-point per game scorer that we can see, that we always wanted to be the last couple of years, that we thought he could be in that first rookie year? Just maybe talk about Keegan and how he's developing offensively and defensively.
Well, I think it's time to really find out.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm the Kings, I'm using the final 8 games of this season to give Keegan the keys. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's only an 8-game sample size. Maybe it means nothing at the end of a bad year. I don't care. Let Keegan lead the team in shot attempts. Give him the ball. And again, this also depends on what kind of direction you're going in. If you do go the rebuild route and keep Keegan on your team and look at him as an important piece for the future, give him a season where he is maybe not the guy, but next to LaVine, he is a guy. Keegan Murray has been a role player this season. The Kings believe he's better than that. You took him 4th overall because you think he's better than that. So are you putting him into that box yourself, or do you think he can be more? Well, if you think he can be more, then give him the damn basketball. That's pretty much where it's at. We know what he can do on the defensive end. He's improved drastically as a rebounder. He's doing a much better job at attacking the basket with aggression, which is something that Mike Brown was demanding of him and asking of him going back to his rookie year. The 3-point shot is starting to come back. Give him the basketball and figure it out. And it's tough to develop a young player when you're a team with high expectations. I mean, it's hard enough as it is for Keegan to be a rookie starter on a playoff team. You don't see that a lot from 4th overall picks. Most of the time you're being drafted to a bad basketball team. You're given the keys and said, if we suck, oh well, it's your team, figure it out. Yeah. For Keegan, it was you have to be good right away. Mm-hmm. So if you go into a position where winning is less important because you're starting something over a little bit, that's the perfect time for Keegan to explore and figure out what kind of player he wants to be. The Kings, when they initially drafted him, they thought he had all-star potential. Mm-hmm. I haven't seen that in a long time, but he also hasn't gotten the opportunity to shoot like an all-star caliber player either. Yeah. So let's see it.
Let him shoot.
Let's see it.
Yeah. No, that's we've been proponents of, blowing it up in the summer and just seeing what Keegan can do next year, because I think Zach doesn't think he'll get, because I think he's a restricted free agent after next year. Zach doesn't think he'll get north of $30 million. I think he can, obviously, depending on how he plays next year. But yeah, we've been proponents of just blowing the whole thing up and getting rid of Domas and DeRozan. Like you said, obviously you can't get rid of Zach LaVine without attaching picks. But similarly, I wanted to talk about Laravia. I know that's a sort of sticky conundrum. because since Memphis did decline his option, I think Sacramento can only offer him $5 million, and all the other teams in the league besides Memphis and Sacramento can offer him as much as they want. So do you think there's any chance that Laravia maybe sort of re-signs in Sacramento, or what % chance would you give that this summer?
I mean, I think there's a good chance. You're kind of hoping that too many teams aren't paying too much attention to what he's doing, but this is the NBA. There's film. Everybody knows everything. But if he's worth more money, it's marginal, right? The Kings can only offer him around $5 million, like a year. But he's not a $10 million per year player.
No.
Teams aren't going to give him $10 million out of sheer desperation just to keep him away from the Kings, right? Like, he might be a $6-7 million player, and those extra $2 million a year might be enough for him to choose another team. But it's not like the Kings are going to have no chance in a bidding war. So I think there's a very good chance that Jake Laravia could remain a King, simply because, yes, the salary cap's going up, but so are massive contracts, and there's not much money left over for players like this. Like, league minimum veteran contracts are everywhere now. Teams just finding guys that they can pay as little money as possible. So $6-7 million for a role player like Jake Laravia might be too much for some teams. And the Sacramento Kings, I at least I believe, again, new front office to be determined, but I believe the Sacramento Kings would say $5 million for Jake in a heartbeat. Let's bring him back and build something here. So we'll see how it plays out. But I don't think it should be like doom and gloom. Oh, the Kings are going to lose Jake Laravia, because he's not going to command a ton of more money on the open market, in my opinion.
Yeah, we're talking a lot of front office moves here, and since we're getting into that, what do you think? Like Monty's we're all agreeing he's probably on his way out. How do you think he'll be remembered as the GM for the Kings? Is he just like butchering the whole Fox ordeal, just like not really improving the team the last few years, or is he going to get some props for giving us like a year of playoffs and that Beam team first year where it was the most exciting thing we've seen in 17 years? And kind of talk about how he's done as a GM. We did a deep dive in on our channel about how he's done as a GM, and like going through all of his trades and his picks. And his first move was probably his best pick, or his best move was drafting Tyrese. That was his best move. But yeah, I guess just kind of talk about how you think how he's going to be remembered, and has he done more damage than I feel like he's done more damage than a lot of GMs that we've had too.
That last part I disagree with. I mean, Monty figured out how to get this team relevant again, and he took some risks to do it. So I give Monty a tremendous amount of credit. I was a huge believer and defender and supporter of Monte McNair from in the early years. After the Domantas Sabonis trade, I thought it was a good trade. I thought it was a risky, ballsy trade, and hindsight may end up proving that it wasn't worth it, depending upon the kind of career that Tyrese Halliburton has. But the Kings needed to find a center, and he found one, and he found one that, in my opinion, is a top 3 center in the NBA and one of the most consistent centers in the NBA. Now, you can ask questions about Sabonis' scoring ability and things like that. All fair questions, all fair criticisms. But I think Monty did a fantastic job out of the gate to get this team somewhere, give them a direction, get them back to relevancy. He knocked his first couple drafts out of the park. Well, he knocked the Tyrese Halliburton draft out of the park. I love the Keegan Murray pick, still do. I was a huge believer in Keegan Murray. He's also had some bad drafts. Davion Mitchell was a miss. And then the way he got rid of Davion Mitchell for nothing, another kind of big miss. The Devin Carter pick, while I'm not out on Devin Carter, the player, it was not the right pick at all for the situation the Sacramento Kings were in, and made no sense at the time, still makes no sense now. That, to some people, is a fireable offense. He has done literally nothing to address the size issues that the Sacramento Kings have had, even going back to the year they made the playoffs. They were really, really good that season. I'm all for him running that team back and keeping that team together. I get why he did it. But even that year, that team struggled with length and athleticism. After you got your butt kicked 6 times by the Pelicans last year, that should have sent a clear enough message that we need to add size and length to this team. He didn't do it until the trade deadline, after firing his head coach and getting rid of his star player, or basically when he got rid of his star player. Like, he waited too long. He built something. The Beam, that team, bringing Mike Brown in, fantastic coaching decision. Like, he built all this, deserves all the credit for it. And then he's just fumbled it over 2 years. And the fact that we can look back to the time where we're recording this is 2 years to the date that the Kings clinched their playoff spot. Over the last 2 years, we had that phenomenal playoff series against the Golden State Warriors. Amazing if you can build upon it. Not only have they failed to build upon it, they've completely, like, everything good from that time is just gone. You have to own that. You have to take responsibility for that. You got Sacramento back to a place that they haven't been in 16 years. You deserve all the credit for that. But this is also a results league where now you're expected to build upon that, or at the very least sustain that. He hasn't been able to. The results are what they are. It's time to move on. That's my opinion.
Yeah. It's because we were going to that recap and we were a little bit harsh on him, and he threw a lot of second round picks away, like a lot of not even just recently, like just in his past trades before that. The Holmes trade, just giving up a first round in that one. Kevin Herter has been kind of biting us, still to this day. And he did press the button on the Fox trade, so we have to give him. I didn't feel like we got great value on that.
Nope.
So yeah, it's tough. But this was a little interesting question that we were just thinking of, just because of Fox's value that we got for him. And I know Fox's value was kind of low during that Tyrese trade, right? We were trying to, are we going to trade Fox? Are we going to trade Tyrese? And we ended up trading Tyrese because he was more valuable, and a lot of teams didn't really want Fox at the time. We just signed him to a bigger contract, and he wasn't playing that well. His 3-pointers was really low. But just for fun, do you think his value was higher at that time? He was a little younger, so there's that for just consideration. But do you think his value was higher at that time compared to what we got for him now? Or do you think that, like, if we traded him during that Tyrese trade, would we have gotten more than what we got just a month ago?
Ooh. I don't know. The best way I can think to answer that question is this. De'Aaron Fox had more value this season than he had then because of his contract situation now, plus he'd proven it a little bit more. Now, there were certainly question marks about, could De'Aaron Fox be the number one guy, and how much did De'Aaron Fox fully care? And I know fans kind of harp on a lot of that, and look, rightfully so. But when De'Aaron Fox got to the playoffs, he played fantastic. He had one of the best playoff debuts in NBA history.
For sure.
Like, and getting him back there, like the San Antonio Spurs know, they now have a clear number two next to Victor Wembanyama. Like, the Spurs are going to be phenomenal with Fox and Wemby together. I'm fully in full belief of that. I'm a big believer in De'Aaron Fox. Never wavered on that.
For sure.
The Kings, regardless, should have gotten better than what they got. I understand the circumstances. I understand how Rich Paul did what Rich Paul does and leveraged the situation to get what he and his client wanted. Good for them. But again, this is a position that the Sacramento Kings put them in. The second that De'Aaron Fox told you, I will not play for another head coach, and you called his bluff, I guess, and fired Mike, and then didn't do a press conference and left him out to dry to answer for it as if it was his fault, when he was one of the few people that actually supported Mike and was the reason Mike Brown got an extension in the first place when other players in that locker room did not want him. Like, no kidding, you put him in a situation where he was like, F you guys, I'm out of here. Like, you did this to yourself. So I know that's not exactly where your question came from, but you did not get equal value for De'Aaron Fox. You traded Fox for a player that is very talented in Zach LaVine, but a player on a worse contract than what you would have signed Fox to, in my opinion. And you're now rudderless. You don't have a number one guy. You don't have a direction, and you have a massive amount of money on your books that you can't really move on from. Look at the Chicago Bulls. The Bulls were begging teams to take LaVine. Nobody would do it. They were trying to attach picks to him to get someone to take him. Nobody would do it. And then the Kings said, okay, yeah, fine, we'll take him, and we'll get rid of De'Aaron Fox in the process. It's a mess. It's just been mishandled. Regardless of how you feel about Fox and how he influenced the situation, the Kings are the ones that ultimately pulled the trigger, and they will reap the consequences, I think, for years. I think they're going to feel the consequences of this trade for years.
Yikes, yeah. That's a good point. Kind of piggybacking on that De'Aaron Fox deal. Do you think maybe if they waited till the summer, do you think they could have got more essentially, or was it sort of they're just gonna get what they got?
Like, I think it would have been better for the Sacramento Kings to wait till the summertime just to explore other options. And look, maybe Fox goes, fine, I'm having surgery, shut me down, and the Kings are a disaster for the remainder of the season. So freaking be it. You're a disaster. You keep your pick. Now you go into a summer where you either hire a new front office and allow them to make the decision of what to do with Fox. You try to reconcile things if you can. And if you can't, then you have more conversations on less of a timeline than we have a week to get this deal done. And every team in the league knows where he wants to go. And the Spurs know that too. So they're going to lowball us. And the Bulls are saying, yeah, we'll get involved if you take this $100 million player off our hands. Like, you had no leverage in the situation at all. And you did not have to do it. You didn't. So I get why you did it. I thought it was a feeble attempt at making the play-in from the beginning. Do I think the Kings would be in a better spot today had they chosen not to trade De'Aaron Fox? Maybe not, probably not, but I think their future, they would have had a brighter future, or at least better odds at a brighter future. That's what's more important here, because the short term, who cares? We're seeing it doesn't work. The long term is now negatively impacted because of the move that you made. So it's a mess you have to clean up because you made that decision at the time that you did. So you went for it, you gambled, you lost.
Right.
Even if you make the playoffs at this point, if the Kings somehow magically end this season, make it to the play-in, win both play-in games, and make it to the playoffs, and you could say, hey, we made it to the playoffs this year and didn't make it last year, that's not a win for me, because we know what's going to happen when they get to the playoffs. It doesn't mean anything, and you're still left with the same problem, an off season with a lot of question marks and a directionless team.
Right. Yeah, no, we've been saying that this team's ceiling is probably just 8 seed, and then I don't think anyone's picking them to win one game over OKC. But yeah, sort of to just bring it back to the present, do you think that we've sort of been saying it's going to be a crash course headed down to that 9 versus 10 Suns versus Kings? What is your prediction for the rest of the season? Do you think the Kings stay in that 9 seed? I know Dallas is trailing them. And do you think that that's essentially do you think they win that first play-in game? Maybe they could beat, there's a lot of teams vying for that 8 seed, but there's Minnesota, LA, Golden State. So what is your prediction for the rest of the season?
I think it's a total crapshoot, but it didn't have to be. Like, at this point, like, you can make an argument for any one of these teams, any one of the three you mentioned, the Kings, the Suns, or the Mavs being the 9th seed. And I would go, yeah, okay. Like, no one believes in any of the three of them. If you were to say line up all three rosters and pick the team that has the best chance to make it out of the play-in and give the Oklahoma City Thunder at least a little bit of a challenge, it's the Suns, because they have Kevin Durant and Devin Booker and Bradley Beal eventually coming back. Like that's it. Like, right. I think the Kings are going to fight like hell just to hold on. And they're good enough to win 2 one-off games and make it in, for sure. They have enough talent to do it, and they've showed us they're capable of winning big games. I mean, that those wins against Memphis and Cleveland were fantastic. What this team struggles with is any kind of consistency. So can they win 2 games? Sure. Do I think it's successful if they do? No. Like, it doesn't mean anything to me, because I've seen it before, and I don't believe where it's going. So not to crap on it. It's not like I wouldn't enjoy it if it was happening in the moment, but it would be great to have 2 more playoff games in Sacramento, regardless of if OKC kicks their butt or not. It would be awesome. We know the vibes. It would be fantastic. It would just be. It would feel like a participation trophy. It wouldn't feel like anything of substance at this point, at least to me.
No, for sure. Yeah, it's a good point. It's tough to really, like, whoever they play, and it's just the direction. It's different than that first year for the Beam team where we made the playoffs and it looked like everything was on the rise up, right?
Right.
And it's just a totally different feeling now. But I mean, I guess we'll end. We got 2 questions left for you here. What do you think? What do you think the Kings can improve on for the next season? Like, they're going to be kind of struck on the salary cap. It's going to be a little tight for them and stuff like that. Keon, like, we'll probably re-sign him hopefully to a decent deal, and hopefully he can add more to his game other than just, really good defense and 3-point shooting. That's really hopefully he can just add a little bit more of that. Maybe do better on closeouts going in, penetrating, stuff like that. Devin, hopefully he recovers from these shoulder surgeries. He got one today, and hopefully we'll see. Hopefully if he can be better from that, and he'll actually have an off season. Keegan, hopefully he can take over for DeMar's if DeMar's losing or DeMar's leaving. We'll have he'll kind of improve his game hopefully and improve offensively, take a little bit more responsibility. What other things do you think the Kings can do? Do they have to find a point guard? What other ways do you think they can try to kind of push it in a better direction?
I'll give you the 3-step process of what needs to happen this offseason, and everything else, everything falls underneath it. Mm-hmm. Step 1, make a decision about your front office. Are you sticking with Monte, or are you going in a different direction? And make that decision right away. Right? Mm-hmm. We don't need to wait until just before the draft to make this decision. Have your exit interviews, which is what, as soon as the season ends, all the players do exit interviews. Then the GM and the coach come out, do exit interviews at the end of the season. After those exit interviews are done, within a week, make that decision. Step 1. Step 2, hire your coach. Hire your coach and give them the responsibility, give them the keys to pick what type of team they want to be. If it's Doug Christie and he wants to have this kind of scrappy defensive style, great. Or you hire another coach that wants to put up a lot of threes or blah, 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 this or that, whatever. Mm-hmm. That's step 2. Step 3 is then build a roster around that identity. Mm-hmm. Don't try and do a jack of all trades nonsense like the Kings have been doing. Look at Ime Udoka and the Houston Rockets. That is a team that is we are going to be villains. We are going to be physical. We're going to talk trash, and we're going to play our style. And suddenly they vaulted up to, they're sitting in the 2 seed right now, and they play that way. Does anybody think they're going to win a championship this season? Probably not. But they have their style. That team embodies their coach. They're together, and they're hard as hell to play against, and they have a bright future because of it. So, again, step 1, make a decision about your front office. Step 2, make a decision about your head coach. Step 3, build around that coach and that identity. That's it. Yeah. At that point, then you can answer the question of, do they go out and get a new point guard? Well, I don't know. Does the new coach want to be a scrappy defensive style? If so, maybe Keon Ellis works. Do they want to be flashy? Maybe Malik Monk works. All of it all falls under that. It's simplified for sure, but you can't make any decisions until you start with answering until you do those 3 parts.
No, that's a good point. It's pretty simple, straightforward, and I like that. I like that idea.
It's a good strategy. Yeah. Hope Vivek's listening or something. I've made some decisions.
They don't care what I think. Trust me, they do not care what I think.
All right, so we started this with a little positivity. We'll end it on some positivity as well. This will just be a question just for you. You've had some pretty awesome experiences just as a sports anchor for ABC, and you got some cool experiences. I want you to rank your top 2 experiences. I know you've done reporting for spring training recently for the A's. You've done the playoff game for the Kings. You've done the Super Bowl. You've done the NBA Finals. Give me top 2 in order. What you think your top 2 sports career experiences have been? I feel like I know the first. We know the first one.
Yeah, number 1 is easy. As a Sacramento kid and someone who grew up a diehard fan of the Kings and still loves this organization, regardless of how I may feel about them. That playoff day, that game 1, and the fact that they won it, but just everything. That morning, I woke up and I went down to Doco at 9 a.m. It's I don't care. I'm going to be there all day just to walk around, experience it, talk to fans, see the buzz, see the energy. It was special. So that entire day, sitting in that seat in the Golden One Center, just feeling that energy, feeling the all the eyes of the world, or at least the country, on Sacramento, because is this team for real? And then they go out and they beat the Golden State Warriors, the defending champs, and everyone's oh my God, this team is fun, right? And De'Aaron Fox balls out. It was just, it was an incredible night. And then they won game 2 also. Draymond Green stomped on Sabonis and all that nonsense. But yeah, that's up there for me. Number 2, I go back and forth with. I'll stick with Kings because it means something to me. Being in Portland 2 years ago today and having the team clinch and being there for that and experiencing that. I even got a little emotional. My partner Kevin John got it on camera because I got a little emotional about it. But it was it was just a surreal moment that we've waited for so long for. You think about like the journey and think about how crappy it's been, and God, I hope not going back to that again. But having that moment, and then I'll throw in an honorable mention, being in Las Vegas to cover the Super Bowl and just being there for the Super Bowl. That's like it was exhausting. Covering Super Bowl is exhausting. But being there for the biggest sporting event in the world it was pretty surreal too. So I've gotten to do some incredible things. I'm unbelievably lucky. I'm stupid lucky, stupid fortunate, right? I've just been right place, right time, and sure, I've worked hard, but I've been able to stay in my hometown, cover the teams that I love, and have access that I only dreamed about. And hopefully I'm just getting started, and hopefully the Kings cannot torture me for another 6 years.
How long were you in Vegas for? Like, are you there for like a week?
We were there. We arrived Monday and covered all the festivities to Super Bowl Sunday. And we probably worked in that week alone, between 80 and 100 hours. That was a crazy week. Covering Super Bowl is like an experience like you've never like it's like a once in a lifetime experience that once you get to the end of it, you're like, I don't know if I need to do that again, but I'll never forget it. Type thing.
That was Chiefs-Niners, right?
Chiefs-Niners.
Chiefs-Niners. Yeah.
Well,
I'm a Raiders fan, so I hated both outcomes.
Oh, and it was a big, yeah. I'm a Niners fan, so yeah.
I'm Raiders. He's Niners.
Yeah, not good for any of us.
Yeah, but we appreciate it, Matt. Thank you so much for coming on. We just want to kind of get the status of this team and where we're heading into the summer, and appreciate you coming on and being our first guest on the NBA Guru Show.
Yeah, thanks, Matt.
I promise you I'm a happier, more positive guy than what I've been this season. This is what the Kings have reduced me to, but I had a lot of fun, guys. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. Hopefully next time it'll be
better
more positive
circumstances.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, Matt. Have a good one.
Take care.